AfriCaribbean Investment Forum. How, in terms of possibilities and opportunities, obviously you're coming from Jamaica, there are lots of opportunities that are currently available in Africa. What are some of the opportunities that you're looking to capitalize on, particularly as it relates to the folks back in Jamaica?
Well, currently our company is actually buying significant product from Africa. We are in the fruit business and we are in the fruit juice business in Europe. And we procure most of our fruit coming from Africa. So we're already trading with Africa, and in years gone by, we used to buy bananas from Cameroon. So we have a long tradition of working in Africa, but now we're looking at expanding that. And of course, we also operate right through the Caribbean as well. We're in our logistics, we have a port in Kingston and ships that that move goods right around the region. So, you know, we are a logistics player. We think that it's important that we are here to ensure that, in fact, any business that's happening, that we are here to engage. And we see the potential. There's a great potential because there are a number of large companies in the region. And if we're going to make this happen, then those large companies have to engage. And we think that we can build partnerships with companies in Africa to do that.
You mentioned that you've been doing business in Africa for a number of years, and of course you're involved in logistics. And I guess my question is, if you look at the way how business has been done over the years, what are some of the challenges that you've experienced, particularly as it relates to getting goods and services across borders?
Well, I also chair Jamaica's Trade Facilitation Task Force for the government of Jamaica, and this is a big challenge right across the region. You know, we're more in the business of control than we are in facilitation, and so it's very difficult. Our laws move in that direction. So, in order to change things and to get our bureaucrats to understand that moving goods, that we can use scientific methods to actually manage the process much better, but they feel they have to touch and feel everything. So things have been very difficult. If you look at the Logistics Performance Index, the region scores very badly. So it's a work in progress. We're working through CARICOM also to see how we can move things. But we need to do this. We need as a region to recognize that things need to move if we're going to prosper. And we have to open ourselves to the rest of the world, and this is an opportunity which is made in heaven for us, and we need to make sure that it works.
How hopeful are you that a conference like this one will be able to deal with some of the challenges that you just mentioned, too, particularly as it relates to logistics, and even as it relates to increased investment, not just here in the Caribbean, but of course getting some of our products and services out there in the African continent? How hopeful that this conference will be able to solve some of those problems?
Well, you know, to the extent that we have our leaders, some of our leaders here, it's important for our leaders to hear and understand this, to hear from the people who are actually doing things, that indeed these are problems that we're facing and that we need to change things if we are really going to have our people move out of the mediocrity that we're living in now. So it's getting the bureaucrats to understand, and also getting the legal framework around which we're doing. So this conference is an awareness building thing. It's a building of bridges and getting to know one another. So I think that's important.
So you're here representing the Jamaica Producers Association, obviously. If you're going to make a pitch to persons here, from the African continent, and you're scoping out those opportunities, what would you say to those persons who may be looking to do business in Jamaica? If you want them to come to Jamaica, what would be your selling point?
My selling point is that we're a well-established group. We're over 100 years old. We know how to do business. We're profitable. And you can trust us.
You can trust us.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Ms. Patricia Francis, there, of course, representing Jamaica's Producers Association. And again, I'm wishing you the producers group. And I certainly want to wish you the best as you participate in this conference. And of course, some of the challenges that you experienced over the years in terms of doing business, I hope those are some of the things that will be dealt with. And of course, moving forward, it makes it a lot easier for your group and of course, everybody else in the Caribbean as well.
Good. Thank you so much.
Great.
Good.
Great. That was Ms. Patricia Francis. Yes, they're talking to us from Jamaica, and of course, you got a wide representation of persons from different Caribbean countries, of course, from different African countries that are here. We are going to expect a little bit later on a statement from the chairman of the board of directors and the president of the AfriCaribbean Bank, Mr. Professor Benedict Oramo, and he's going to be talking to us about the benefits, of course, of being able to do business in Africa, and of course, some of the things the AfriCaribbean Bank has been doing. We know they launched recently the headquarters, or another location rather, in Barbados, particularly for this region, and we can be able to hear how that would be able to benefit this region. You alluded to some of those things a little while ago in terms of access to financing and being a bridge rather for some of the challenges that we've been facing over the years as it relates to getting goods and services to and fro, and of course investments in the right areas as well.
Yes, and one of the main aims of this event by the governments and also by AfriCaribbean Bank is to bring together people, to bring the participants together in one room where they can discuss several ideas and various things which may be bothering them that they wish to have, taken care of, but also areas where they can have mutual interest to build on this, and for what's already been built to expand on it.
Yeah, you're talking about leaders and persons who are going to be addressing this forum a little bit later on. We alluded to the Prime Minister of St. Lucia, and he should be making his pitch as well and contributions to that conversation a little bit later on as it relates to the benefits of doing business in Africa and the Caribbean. Particularly St. Lucia, one of those countries that is particularly known for tourism, Kristen, is going to be able to make their pitch as well as it relates to that. So a little bit later on, you definitely can expect the Prime Minister of St. Lucia, Philip J. Pierre, to be able to make his presentation here as part of the African Caribbean Conference Investment Forum a little bit later on. We also alluded to the fact that the Prime Minister of Barbados should be here and to make her pitch as well to this conference. And of course, you're going to be hearing from the CARICOM Secretary General as well, Dr. Carla Barnett, a little bit later on as it relates to how this conference can be able to really benefit the Caribbean region. As you alluded to a little while ago, we've been talking about all the investments, but Kristen, I see you've got somebody else with you.
Yes, with me is Mr. David Joseph, who is the Development Commissioner in Antigua and Barbuda. Hello, sir, and welcome.
Hi, how are you? Welcome to Guyana.
Yes, welcome to Guyana. Let's get straight into this. What brings you here, and why are you a part of this conference?
Well, I'm representing our country directly out of the Prime Minister's office in Antigua and Barbuda, and we always consider our economic development in the Caribbean is very much tied our future with Africa. We see that at this moment, coming out of Africa is a lot of interesting news in terms of future economic development, and we think that South-South cooperation of this nature can bring tremendous benefits to us.
Yes, and over the last number of years, Antigua and Barbuda, as well as Guyana, they've had good relations. What are your thoughts on the partnerships that may be available or that are available with the continent of Africa?
Very positive. At the moment, for instance, Antigua and Barbuda, in terms of improving connectivity in the region, is forging links with APIS, the Western Africa largest airline, and we are bringing them in a joint venture with Liat to form Liat 2020 Limited, and we're hoping that within the next couple of months we will launch this very important program. And we're also looking at Airlink coming out of Nigeria into Antigua, and then use Antigua as a hub to feed the rest of the Caribbean with tourists and business persons from Africa. So this is of particular importance to us at the moment, yes.
All right, thank you so much, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you too.
So that was another international delegate here that is participating in this year's Forum and Investment. Lyndon, hi, you're back.
Yeah, Kristen, if we can continue in terms of some of the things that we can expect from this engagement this morning, we're talking about all the aims and objectives of this conference. We alluded to a little while ago accelerating industrialization and the manufacturing capacity of both the Caribbean region and the African continent. When you're looking at infrastructure, we've been seeing a lot of improvements in our infrastructure here and even in the region as well. And of course, Guyana being an oil-producing nation, our infrastructure is going through rapid transformation. We can definitely learn some things from some of the African countries as well, because when you travel to that continent, I mean, we've never been there, but we look at images that we've seen. Infrastructure is a really big thing in that part of the world as well. In terms of the engineering and the types of infrastructure they have. We have a lot of similarities, like you mentioned, in terms of the lands that we have that are arable for agriculture. There are some infrastructure types that we can be able to really use as well to really ramp up production. Now we're seeing the use of hydroponics here in this part to be able to really get our agriculture going. What is Africa doing in terms of agriculture and in terms of its infrastructure that we can be able to really benefit from what they're doing to really get our production up as well? Those are some of the things that we can that we'll be able to focus here at this investment conference this morning as well.
Yes, indeed, because Africa has 60% of arable land, and that is what some of the delegates and participants in this active investment forum they're looking at, because they want to know. They see the Caribbean is ramping up the drive to ensure that there is food security, and they want to partner with not just the governments but the businesses, the private sector, and persons, so that they can also develop and expand their agriculture. But actually in Africa, it's really, really hot. And speaking of hot, they're being affected by climate change, just like other parts of the world. And this is another area which is of major importance to those delegates here from Africa. And they want to be able to speak to the other persons here so that they can all come up with solutions and ideas that can be implemented. And everyone is looking to have a piece of the pie and to benefit from these. Lyndon, I'll hand this over to you.
Thank you so much, Kristen. I've got with me Mr. Floyd Haynes, the chairman of New Haven. I understand it's a Guyanese company, but I'll give you an opportunity to tell us a little bit about some of the things that you guys do.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. New Haven Merchant Bank was established a little over a year ago with the goal in mind of bridging the financial gap that exists in Guyana. Since the discovery of oil, Guyana has been growing by leaps and bounds, exponential growth. And when I took a look at the landscape, it was clear to me, patently clear, that there were not any financial institutions that can provide the type of creative financing, innovative rather, I don't like the word creative, innovative financing that can help businesses to grow, to scale, to transform, and to expand. And so that's the gap we sought to fill. So we were licensed a little over a year ago, and we've been deploying capital, large businesses, mid-sized businesses, as well as small businesses.
Great. So you have a representation here in Guyana, of course, and you're looking for those opportunities that will be available through this conference. Talk to us about some of the things you're expecting to come out of this conference in terms of the opportunities in another part of the world.
Well, we're located here in Guyana. We're headquartered here. I signed a memorandum of understanding with AfriCaribbean Bank back in May or June of this year. And so what I'm hoping is that Guyanese businesses get an opportunity to interact with businesses from Africa, as well as other parts of the diaspora, and as well as get an opportunity to present their business ideas to representatives from AfriCaribbean.
You mentioned small and large scale and medium scale businesses as well. And sometimes, people may have business ideas that they may want to venture into, but sometimes the access to financing can be a challenge in that regard. You, with your organization, New Haven, we have the AfriCaribbean Bank, of course, which you're signatory to. How does this conference allow persons to be able to really scope out those opportunities that may be available, particularly as it relates to financing? And what role do you see your organization playing as it relates to that?
Well, we see the New Haven Merchant Bank playing a crucial role in terms of bringing the type of financing, innovative financing that is necessary for the types of businesses that are going to be looking for capital. We're one of two merchant banks or investment banks. All the other banks are commercial banks or what we call retail banks. So they're not necessarily created to provide a type of financing in a frontier economy where businesses are looking for capital, but they don't have the necessary wherewithal. What I'm hoping would come out of this is that businesses would get a sense of what institutions like us look for when we look at a business and we contemplate making financing available. Oftentimes, people walk into the bank and they say, I've got an idea, like you suggested, I've got a business idea, I need a loan. Well, an idea is just the beginning. There's a whole ecosystem around that idea that looks at things like business analytics, feasibility studies, cash flow projections, return on investment, cost of capital, all of those things one has to consider. And I'm hoping that throughout the next couple of days, businesses will get a sense of what investors look for before they make those types of investments.
In this part of the world and around the world, we've been seeing the effects of climate change. And, that presents a different challenge for investors, for businesses, and even for banks as well. Because obviously people are talking a lot now about insurance, particularly as it relates to the agriculture sector. That's a thing that we've been talking about here in the Caribbean because we're looking to really ramp up food production to gain that goal of 25% by 2025. How do you guys see yourself fitting into that? Because that's another conversation that we've been having in terms of insurance in that particular field. I know insurance is one of the things that businesses strive for when it comes because the volatility of doing business in certain parts of the world. But how do you guys see yourself fitting into that conversation?
Well, we're not in the insurance business at all. We are in the financing business. In fact, we don't make loans, we make investments. What we do, we take businesses that are not fully, but are somewhat mature, and we provide the necessary finance or capital that can take them to the next level. So that's our role. And there is a huge opportunity here in Guyana as well as in the Caribbean for that type of financing.
Thank you so much, Mr. Floyd Haynes, the chairman of New Haven. Wishing you the very best as you participate in this conference. And hopefully the opportunities that you're seeking and hoping those opportunities will get into fruition by the end of this conference.
My pleasure.
Great, thank you. Now, Mr. Floyd Haynes there, the chairman from New Haven. Of course, we're talking about investments here in Guyana in terms of opportunities for financing. That group will play a very integral role as it relates to that. You're talking about the participation from persons into Guyana for this investment conference. We got a number of delegates who can expect coming in here as well. If you're looking at the list of speakers that we have lined up a little bit later on, I see some folks from AfriCaribbean Bank. We've got Mr. Renee, the global head for client relations of AfriCaribbean Bank. We've also got the executive chairman of African Energy Chamber, Mr. Ayuk as well. We've got Mrs. Kay Ann Greenwich, the chief executive officer of Invest Barbados, should be here as well to make their pitch. We were talking a little while ago about Go Invest Guyana and the role that they will be playing, particularly as it relates to investment opportunities. And this conference will play a very good integral role when it comes to offering those opportunities for countries like Barbados as well. So they're eagerly represented here at this conference. I see Kristen has another representative with her. So Kristen, who do you have with you?
Well, this is an interesting question. I was just discussing with this high-level delegate here who is representing the CARICOM Private Sector Commission. You're the chairman. Sir, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself and what you're doing here?
Sure. My name is Gervais Warner. I'm the chairman of the CARICOM Private Sector Organization and also the president and group CEO of Massey Holdings. And I'm here because the connection between the continent and ourselves here in the Caribbean is something that I believe is very important for us to continue to pursue. I think AfriCaribbean Bank should be commended on this initiative because not only have they started reaching out to us, but they've also set aside $1 billion fund for investment in trade and finance between ourselves and the continent. I think it's an enormous opportunity for us. If you think about the African continent and the size of that market, its cultural connections, its roots and heritage, back to where we came from in terms of Caribbean ancestry, Middle Passage, it's actually quite tremendous. I had an opportunity to go over to Nigeria and Ghana earlier this year and attend the AGM, and I was quite impressed with the kinds of delegates, the strength of the businesses, the opportunities that they have with consumers in that continent. I think it's a great opportunity for us in the Caribbean to connect.
Yes, it's all about connectivity, and that eases business woes. Coming from the Private Sector Commission and being in CARICOM, how important is this connectivity, not only in the Caribbean, but in terms of other continents, like in this case, Africa? Because in previous years, with trade and different barriers, some problems occurred because of logistics and the cost of doing business due to the connectivity issues.
So, what's happening in the world today is a lot of countries are getting very nationalistic, and they're protecting themselves. What we are experiencing here is we're experiencing the African Union reaching out to us in the Caribbean, welcoming us to participate. The trade and logistics is difficult. The Atlantic Ocean between us is significant, and we do have some real challenges to resolve to actually facilitate our ability to travel there, for them to travel here, and for that connectivity to really be felt, which is why, fora like today are important, where we actually do take the opportunity to get past that inconvenience and get to know one another and establish those connections. Because of course, a lot of it can be done, through digital communications, etc. But there's nothing like the seeing the market, meeting people, that establishes the proximity of the connections. I'm sure, and I really hope that today we will talk more about the challenges of the logistics and how we would get together to have some breakthroughs in that area.
So this event is all about bringing people together in one room, one building, where they can discuss and share ideas and assist each other and see areas of mutual interest. For you, what would you say is the most, or one of the most important expectations that you have coming out of this two-day conference?
For me, really, it's more about networking, meeting people, establishing contacts, developing relationships that we can continue and follow up upon outside of fora like today. Because, this is, what they call a talk shop. You really don't do anything. What you can really accomplish here is get to meet people, get a level of relatedness, establish agenda that you would want to follow up on. And since I was out in Nigeria and Ghana, I've had the opportunity to follow up on a number of conversations. And now I can say I have some friends in the AfriCaribbean Bank, which opens up some opportunities for our group of companies to help facilitate our trade and our investment. And so I think it's been a very effective forum for developing those types of relationships and opening new doors, new opportunities for us to look for partners and look for sources of investment for the future.
All right. Thank you so much and all the best.
Thank you very much, Kristen. Lovely to meet you. Take care.
So there we have it. For persons out there who are interested in this event, we are live on NCN's Facebook page. We are live on NCN TV, and we are also on NCN Radio. Lyndon, I see you have someone with you. Let me hand this over to you.
Thank you so much, Kristen. I'm now joined by the Honorable Jason P. Hayward, the Minister of Economy and Labor for the government of Bermuda. Hello and welcome to Guyana, sir. How are you doing this morning?
All is well. Pleased to be here.
Great. So this investment, this Trade and Investment Forum, the AfriCaribbean Trade and Investment Forum, offers countries in the Caribbean enormous opportunities in terms of investments in the African continent. I'm wondering for you guys in Bermuda, what are some of the opportunities that you guys are scoping up?
And so the Caribbean and African regions share such a rich history, and there's an opportunity opportunity for us to engage in bilateral agreements, which would foster economic harmony and a level of cooperation. From investment standpoint, Bermuda is experts in insurance and reinsurance. Those sorts of products can benefit the African region in terms of ensuring that we appropriately cover risk when they occur in that particular region. Outside of that, we are a financial jurisdiction, and certainly the products that we offer within our jurisdiction and territory can certainly benefit companies who are looking to expand their global reach throughout the western part of the world.
Yeah. There may be countries around the world that may offer similar types of services that you guys do in Bermuda. What is it that sets Bermuda apart from all those other countries? If you're looking to make your pitch for particular types of investment from the African continent, why should they choose Bermuda over those countries? Because obviously there are a lot of risk in doing business, given the effects of climate change, and of course with our challenges here that we have as a small island development state. So why should they choose Bermuda?
So Bermuda is a sophisticated business jurisdiction. You will get regulatory clarity. You have government that's prepared to work with industry to ensure that we maximize the outcomes that industry actually desire. We have a high quality of life. And I think that our geographical location gives excellent connection to the U.S., Canada, and South American regions.
In terms of the opportunities that we've been talking about, this conference will be a lot of conversations surrounding trade and investment and logistics. We know we do have some challenges here in the Caribbean as it relates to logistics, particularly getting people to and fro, goods and services to and fro. What are you hoping that will be able to come out of this conference that will be able to really benefit you and Bermuda, and of course by extension the Caribbean region as well?
Certainly, so we're looking forward to the outcomes and the solutions which actually mitigate some of those challenges that you discuss. And I think the only way in which we're going to move forward is that we have the mutually beneficial conversations that lead to positive outcomes that we can all look forward to achieving.
Great, thank you so much. That was the Honorable Jason P. Hayward, the Minister of Economy and Labor in the government of Bermuda. Thank you so much, and wish you the very best as it relates to this conference as well.
Thank you.
Great. Continue with the coverage of the AfriCaribbean Trade and Investment Forum 2023 here at the Marriott Hotel. And of course, Kristen, we heard from a number of delegates already. We're just minutes away from the opening of this African Caribbean Trade and Investment Forum. What are you looking forward to? I'm going to put you on the spot. What are you looking forward to this morning?
Me, I'm looking forward to networking, to meeting a lot of persons and to learn a lot as I can, because hey, I'm a journalist at heart, so that's what it's all about, making the connections, meeting people from all different walks of life, who have different portfolios, who have different backgrounds, and in meeting them you can also appreciate the differences and also the similarities at the same time, and of course learning about culture and history. And I know that sounds a bit boring to some people, but it really isn't. What about you, Lyndon?
I think I'm looking forward to the conversations. I know a lot of times you alluded to the fact that when you get people in the room, you really get them talking, and their challenges that we've been experiencing as it relates to trade and investment and logistics. I'm looking to see how we can really be able to really get to the bottom of these and find solutions to those challenges, particularly as it relates to logistics. I know when you're looking at again the ease of doing business, and even with movements of goods and services, that's one of the things that people oftentimes talk to. And with the rich cultural history and diversity we have here in the Caribbean, in Guyana and the Caribbean, you want people from Africa to be able to come to these parts, to be able to experience that. So we're looking to see how we can be able to eliminate those things which exist that pose a challenge as it relates to that. So I'm looking forward to see what are some of the solutions that our government and our people can come up with this morning.
Well, I should also say that one main thing that I look forward to is the development of the tourism sector, the tourism industry, because we all work hard, we all deserve vacations, and we also want to be able to enjoy the period and time that we're there. So, basically, I want to see more air linkages, airlines, and cheaper airfare and less traveling time. Not only for me, but it will help the economies when businesses have to pay less to get these things done, so that they don't have to give you things or sell you things or provide services at what many people say are like sky high prices.
Yeah, we certainly want to acknowledge our listeners on the Voice of Guyana as well, because we are streaming on television, of course, on NCN Facebook page as well, but we do have our listeners on our radio Voice of Guyana as well this morning. So we definitely want to acknowledge those persons who are listening to us on radio as well. And if we're going to look at the program, Kristen, I know we're just moments away from the opening. We're going to be expecting some introductory remarks from, I mentioned the president of the AfriCaribbean, or the chairman of the board of directors. We're also expecting an opening statement from Her Excellency Carla Barnett, Dr. Carla Barnett, the Secretary General of CARICOM. We're also expecting some special remarks from some folks around the world as well, in terms of some different ministers. We've got the Minister of Industry and Trade and Investment from Nigeria, that is Bola Ahmed Tinubu, of course, and we're expecting Her Excellency as well, His Excellency Azil, the President of the Union of the Comoros and Chairperson of the African Union, represented by His Excellency Ahmad Al-Bazi, Minister of Economy and Industry and Investment from Comoros. And of course, I mentioned the Prime Minister St. Lucia should be here making. One of the things I must tell you that you should expect from this conference, we have a CNN International journalist that's going to be here to moderate a special conversation a little bit later on. I'm trying to find the name, just bear with me here, Kristen, but that is significant that we're going to have those types of conversations, that we're going to have international journalists being present as well to give some coverage.
Yes, while you look for that name, I hope you can find it so the viewers out there can know just who it is that will be moderating the events. When I was in the lobby area, there was also another CNN staffer there. So it is more than one person from CNN here. They're covering as well as moderating. But there's also many international journalists here, not only from the CARICOM states, the Caribbean countries, but from places that are actually from Africa.
Yeah, a little while ago, I had an opportunity to meet one of the youngsters from Nigeria. I think he's from News Nigeria. So we have several companies, several news agencies from the African continent as well that are here giving coverage to this, because obviously you have a large population in the African continent who will be very key, paying very key attention rather to what's happening here in Guyana, to hear obviously some of the opportunities, because obviously you have small, medium and large scale businesses that will be scoping out opportunities, and they might hear something that may pique their interest, and of course maybe coming into the Caribbean region to do some business. So it's Mr. Zane Emoma Peoples, the news anchor from CNN International, who's going to be moderating a conversation on 1 year of African trade and investment revival, lessons from experiences as well.
Well, I am looking forward to that, at least because, the CNN is a very recognized media outlet worldwide, and they bring to you the facts live and direct. And seeing that they're not just only covering this event, they're actually moderating. They have persons moderating here. That tells you of the magnitude, the high level that this event actually stands at, not just in the Caribbean and in Africa, but other parts of the world. And the AfriCaribbean Bank, well, they should be given a lot of credit too, because their main aim is to be the financial muscle, to provide that financial muscle to people in the private sectors, and also help the governments to, stimulate the private sector so that they will have a big growth, a fast growth, like they were talking about Guyana, with the fastest growing economy in the world right now. But not just in terms of oil and gas and traditional areas, but agriculture and tourism are two of the most major topics here that will be on the discussion over the next few days, because with agriculture and with tourism, they will have a lot of infrastructural works, like you spoke about earlier, going on in the various countries, which will lead to rapid modernization. It'll have a rippling effect practically. Just providing a lot of people with opportunities, and not just in the Caribbean, but for many people who might want to get into the tourism sector. It's not always about the airlines. There's the hotel industry. There are people with resorts. There are people who want to have vacation homes, and they will be able to have these buildings and these structures at a marketable price, and also push the image of their country forward.
Christina, we're moments away from the opening of the African Caribbean conference this morning. We will pause just to give a sense of what's happening.
So as we can hear, they are announcing the commencement of the event.
Definitely. So the voice you're hearing there is the moderator for this program this morning, and we're talking about Mr. Creighton, and Creighton is the Junior Director of Confucius Institute for the University of Ghana, and he's going to be moderating the program this morning. Of course, we're talking about all the persons who are going to be presenting this morning. I have a very long lineup of persons who are going to be addressing the conference a little bit later on. Key among them is the keynote address, which you can expect a little bit later on from His Excellency Dr. Mohammed Irfan Ali, the President of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana. But you must hear from Her Excellency Dr. Carla Barnett as well, who is the Secretary General of the Caribbean of CARICOM. And of course, you got Philip Pierre, the Prime Minister of St. Lucia, and Mayor Amor Motley, as well, Prime Minister of Barbados, who will be making addresses here. The conference will have a number of sessions throughout the day, Kristen, several sessions. I mentioned the one which will be moderated by the CNN International anchor, who's going to be moderating the first session. Then we have another session this afternoon. That one is going to be tailored, is going to be titled Options for Overcoming Financing Constraints to Africa-Caribbean Trade and Investment Corporation, and the moderator for that will be the Executive Director of the Erskine Global Communications. So we're talking about Anita Erskine, and that should be a pretty interesting conversation as well.
Yes, indeed, Lyndon. And I know we touched a lot about agriculture and tourism being some of the main focus points or areas in the two-day event here at the Guyana Marriott Hotel. But outside of that, there are several other ministers, government ministers here, not only from Guyana, but from the Caribbean countries. And they will also be sharing ideas and thoughts on how to better their services and how they can provide more for their peoples, the peoples of their land, like social protection, labor, like you spoke with that individual from labor earlier, you know, labor laws and how to make things more modernized while providing the best and most comfortable environments for workers, employees.
Yeah, you know, you alluded to the fact that there are so many opportunities in several different areas, and you know, one of the things that people oftentimes zoom into when you look at investment opportunities in Guyana is oil and gas. Because when you look at our economy, Kristen, and you look at the opportunities that are available, I mean, we talked about agriculture a little while ago, and of course the lessons and similarities in the two countries in terms of the African continent and here in Ghana. Just I can tell you, Kristen, a little while ago, we saw the Prime Minister of the Cooperative Republic of Ghana, His Excellency. We're talking about the Right Honourable Mark Phillips, rather, just walked into the room. But we're expecting His Excellency the President to come by a little bit later on as well, waiting on his arrival into this conference. But again, we're talking about the opportunities that are available. As it relates to opportunities here in Guyana. It's not just oil and gas. Even in the African continent, you have a number of countries as well that are involved in oil and gas, like we mentioned, Ghana and Nigeria, and we have several other countries as well. There's several other opportunities that exist outside of the oil and gas industry, and those are the opportunities that I think a number of people will be scoping out as well, because everybody wants to get involved in oil and gas, but the opportunities are enormous when it comes to other types of sectors as well.
Yes, indeed, Lyndon. And I am not being biased here, but I would really, really look forward to what our president, Dr. Mohammed Irfan Ali, has to say during his address at this event, because you know our president has been at the forefront trying to push Guyana forward, and not only Guyana but the Caribbean at large, especially when it comes to food security. I think we should not take for granted the issue of attaining food security, because it's not just a problem or an issue that is isolated to the Caribbean, but around the world, because of the global challenges and the economies, things that are occurring. Some of the persons from AfriCaribbean actually alluded to the war that took place with Ukraine and Russia, and they said that this showed how important it was to have food security, because many countries would have depended on trade and logistics, transportation, traveling, exporting of goods. And with that whole issue that took place then, it really, really affected many countries from being able to, you know, progress. And you saw a lot of people trying their best to survive, but they had to pay large sums of money just to have food.
Yeah, and you're talking about access to financing, and you're talking about the role that the AfriExim Bank can play as it relates to the access to financing. When you look at all those things that you alluded to, you realize that the world is, in terms of countries, don't really exist by themselves. Kristen, we must pause to recognize the arrival of His Excellency the President of the
Dr. Mohamed
Republic of
Irfan
Ghana.
Ali, President of the Republic of Guyana. He is accompanied by guests, the Prime Minister Ladies and gentlemen, we would ask you to remain standing for the playing of the African Union Anthem. You may be seated. His Excellency Dr. Mohamed Irfan Ali, President of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana, Honorable Philip Pierre, Prime Minister of St. Lucia, Honorable Brigadier Mark Phillips, Prime Minister of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana, Professor Benedict Orama, President and Chairman of the Board of Directors of AfriCaribbean Bank, Honorable Madam Justice Yonette Cummings Edwards, Acting Chancellor of the Judiciary, Honorable Manzoor Nadir, Speaker of the National Assembly, Honorable members of the Cabinet, Honorable Madam Justice Roxanne George Wilshire, Acting Chief Justice, Honorable Minister of Government, Honorable Ministers of Government of the Caribbean and African countries, Honorable Members of Parliament, Her Excellency Dr. Carla Barnett, Secretary General of the CARICOM Secretariat for the Caribbean Community, His Excellency Babajide Sanwo-Olu, Executive Governor of Lagos State, Nigeria, Mr. Jamel Grib, Representative of the African Union Commission, Central Bank Governors, Honorable Members of the New York State Legislature, Excellencies and members of the Diplomatic Corps, distinguished delegates, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen. I have the distinct honor of leading you through the proceedings this morning of the opening of the AfriCaribbean Trade and Investment Forum 2023, This is the second forum, and the theme is creating a shared, prosperous future. Creating a shared, prosperous future is the theme of the conference, which will take place over 2 days, the 30th and 31st of October 2023, hosted by the government of Guyana in Georgetown. The government of Guyana and the African Export and Import Bank, hereafter referred to as AfriCaribbean Bank, are proud to welcome delegates to the second AfriCaribbean Trade and Investment Forum, hereinafter referred to as ACTIF 2023, under the theme Creating a Shared Prosperous Future. After the success of the inaugural forum in Barbados in 2022, ACTIF 2023 will again focus on strengthening ties between and bolster trade and investment and enhance sustainable development in Africa and the Caribbean. I would also like at this time to recognize our sponsors for ACTIF 2023. Orando PLC is one of Africa's leading energy solutions providers, operating in the upstream, midstream, and downstream. The government of Barbados, who hosted the historic inaugural ACTIF in 2022, and the joint sponsorship exhibition, Invest Barbados and Export Barbados. Those are the sponsors of the conference, whom we recognize and to whom we express a word of gratitude. Honorable Hugh Hilton Todd was appointed Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation on August 5th, 2020. And he is also a Member of Parliament of the Republic of Guyana. Mr. Todd is a former member of the Guyana Defense Force, Coast Guard, and he attended the Britannia Royal Naval College in Dartmouth, in the United Kingdom, and he served as craft commander, training officer, and location commander during his military career. Mr. Todd has also had an academic career, serving in the School of Entrepreneurship and Business Innovation at the University of Guyana, where he served for some time as the Assistant Dean. It is my honor to invite the Honorable Hugh Hilton Todd, Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation of the Republic of Guyana, to address you with words of welcome. Honorable Hugh Todd.
His Excellency Dr. Muhammad Irfan Ali, President of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana, Honorable Philip Pierre, Prime Minister of St. Lucia, Honorable Brigadier Retired Mark Phillips, Prime Minister of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana, Professor Benedict Umara, President and Chairman of the Board of Directors of AfriCaribbean Bank. Henceforth, I will stand on all protocols observed by the Master of Ceremonies. On behalf of His Excellency Dr. Mohammed Irfan Ali, President of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana, and the people of Guyana, we wish to extend a warm welcome to you all to the second AfriCaribbean Trade and Investment Forum, which is being held here in Georgetown over the next few days. Guyana is very pleased to host this event, and we see it as providing an enabling environment for continued bi-regional engagement between the private sector and institutions of financing across CARICOM and Africa. Here in Guyana, we recognize the importance of South-South cooperation, engagements between our regions as necessary to further growth and develop private sector and ultimately creating wealth and prosperity for our peoples. It is important to take note that this forum is being held at a critical juncture in the history of international trade and economic relations. Our economies are still emerging from the decline of economic growth that resulted from the COVID-19 pandemic, and we are transitioning into the era of economic recovery. The theme of this year's forum, Creating a Shared Prosperous Future, is reflective of our strong commitment to expanding the links between our regions and implementing mechanisms through a framework of economic engagement to facilitate trade and investment. This forum provides the framework for all of us to share views on a strategic program to enhance investment and trade flows between the two regions. AfriCaribbean Bank has already set the right pace, and both the African countries and the CARICOM member states can gain from the bank's establishment in this region. Our countries must take full advantage of our goods and services to enhance investment and trade relations with the African continent and the rest of the global economy. Guyana and the Caribbean region should take advantage of this initiative presented by the AfriCaribbean Bank. With its more than 50 countries and its plethora of business and investment opportunities. In fact, the continent is home to over 1.43 billion people, which is 17.9% of the world's population. The African Continental Trade Area Agreement is the largest free trade area in the world, measured by the number of countries participating, and has a combined gross domestic product valued at $3.4 trillion US. The continent has many sources of raw materials for input in our production processes, while at the same time, it also offers a market for products from our region. This forum will generate discussions for our countries to share ideas on how to add value to the natural resources of our regions. Just like the African region's rich natural resources, which includes minerals, forestry resources, and fisheries resources, and the conducive climate for agricultural production. Our Caribbean community, which is largely composed of small island and low-lying coastal states, has similar resources that could be developed in partnership with countries from the African continent. We know that there are many countries on the African continent that have experience in the management of natural resources, including extractive mineral products like petroleum and petroleum products, gold, diamond, copper, bauxite, cocoa, coffee, cotton, and forestry products. This presents for good strategic partnerships. The deepening and expansion of South-South trade between the Caribbean and the continent of Africa can be transformative for all trading partners involved. It can expand exports into innovative and technological areas of comparative and competitive advantage, such as merchandise trade and tourism. It can broaden expanding opportunities from a concentration of large players to a wider and more inclusive set of actors, including marginalized stakeholders such as smallholders, women-led firms, and young entrepreneurs. There is more than $1 billion in two-way trade potential between the Caribbean and Africa across a wide range of products and services. By addressing trade barriers to market access and directing investments into sectors with export potential, Caribbean countries can increase merchandise trade to Africa by over 50% and can further boost its exports, its services exports. Exploiting export potential will allow the two regions to strengthen and diversify their trade relations, especially in times when stronger South-South partnerships are needed to address the current versatility in the international economy amidst various global crises. We believe that if we are serious about promoting trade and investment, and I can assure you, Guyana and the Caribbean region are very serious, then it is necessary that we encourage private sector partnerships to be formed that explore opportunities and deepening exports and investments. While in the case of Guyana, partnerships in the area of mineral resources may be more straightforward. I challenge you to shift and focus on areas that we may be individually strong, but where we have not traditionally formed partnerships or cooperated. To focus on trade, it is imperative that we address both tariff and non-tariff barriers to market access, and particularly do work to encourage trade from small businesses. It is appreciated that the Caribbean region, just like the African continent, is faced with serious challenges, among other things, include the climate change-related crises, food insecurity, and energy insecurity. Building resilience against these challenges and creating jobs and employment should be key priorities for both of our regions. Strengthening our trade and investment relations would only be one step in this direction, and this forum can help determine where our countries want to go in partnership with AfriCaribbean. The effects of the challenges our countries face can only be managed through enhanced cooperation and partnership like this one that has been developed between the Caribbean region and the AfriCaribbean. In fact, we are pleased to acknowledge and recognize the achievements made since the initiation of this economic partnership between the Caribbean community and the AfriCaribbean during the inaugural AfriCaribbean Trade and Investment Forum held in Barbados in 2022. AfriCaribbean now has a representative office in Barbados, and 12 countries of our Caribbean community have access to an approved limit of US $1.5 billion to facilitate the strengthening of commerce and investment between the regions. The community is also receiving technical support for the establishment of its own CARICOM Export-Import Bank. We see our partnership with the AfriCaribbean allowing for targeted financing through the bank in support in critical economic sectors aimed at boosting the development of trade-enabling infrastructure, as well as enhancing trade and investment between Africa and the Caribbean and the CARICOM member states, while providing support for small and medium-sized enterprises. This partnership should continue to be strengthened to enhance trade and investment between the Caribbean community and Africa. The program for this forum before you outlines the areas that would be critical to the growth of this partnership between the two regions and are consistent with Guyana's national development trajectory. The issues include AfriCaribbean trade and investment revival, overcoming financial constraints, opportunities in the oil and gas sector, improving food security, agricultural productivity, and expanding agribusiness, energy security, climate change, and sustainable development. The stage is set for fruitful deliberations on issues that will manage the economic interactions between the Caribbean community and Africa going forward. Let us maximize this opportunity to advance our bi-regional economic partnership. I welcome you all once again to this forum. and express the confidence that your ensuing deliberations will rebound to the benefit of the peoples of Africa and the CARICOM community. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Hugh Hilton Todd, Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation. Ladies and gentlemen, it is important to announce that this conference will be joined later on this morning by the Honorable Mia Mottley, the Prime Minister of Barbados, and she will arrive shortly, but not for this session. I would also like to recognize the presence of the Mayor of the City of Georgetown, Mr. Alfred Mentor. As we move through the proceedings this morning, we focus on the bank. We focus on the AfriCaribbean Bank, and that institution has a song recognized as an anthem of the organization.